Morning. Hello. So as you can see, I've already taken my cupboard doors off. I've taken off a few of the fittings and stuff. Ready for the wall to be painted, so I'm going to do all the walls and cupboards and the furniture white. And then if I have time today, but if not later in the week, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to varnish the ceiling and then these sort of exposed bits of pine. Now the main issue that I have to contend with today, although it's a beautiful day, it's also -1 degrees, which isn't ideal for drying paint. So what I'm going to do, I think, is fire up the diesel heater, get it nice and warm in here whilst I'm painting, and hopefully that should mean everything dries a little bit quicker. You'd hope. The first thing I'm going to do is just go over all the surfaces with my orbital sander, just give everything a little once over, and then before I start painting I'm going to apply some of this knotting solution to some of the knots, and that just stops them from seeping through the paint, which is apparently a problem. So it can just be put lightly on these little knots and it dries sort of within half an hour or so. Cool. Right, so I've done the sanding, so what I'm going to do is apply some of this, as I said. Now, I've stuck the heating on, but I need to do the back doors. I can't do them whilst they're closed, because I also need to reach the bottom. So I'm quickly going to go around and do the back doors, close them up, close everything up, and then do the rest of the van with the doors closed, and whilst it's hopefully getting a bit warm in here. Heat's on max now. It's getting toasty. Really good to, really reassuring. Right, I'm going to finish going over the rest of the walls with this stuff. So the stuff I bought, it's got its own little little brush inside, which is a little bit helpful. And you literally just, any big knots that could cause you trouble, such as over here, literally just dab a thin layer on like that, and that will seal it up. Right, whilst that's drying, one of the last things I'm going to do before we can finally get painting is just go around all the edges with masking tape, so I don't get any paint on any of our nice worktops and pine and stuffs. Right, that took so much longer than expected, but I'm all masking taped up. So you can see I've sort of gone around the edges here just to make sure I don't get my worktop paint on it, or my carpets. For the fittings that I couldn't take off or couldn't be bothered to take off, mostly the second one, like wrapped them. Look, what a professional job that is. So I'll wrap them in masking tape. So yeah, as that took so long, I'm going to get some lunch, and then, as I said, I'm going to start by painting the back doors. Then we'll close everything up, get the heater on, and then paint everything else. Right then. So for the white paint, I've just got some of this quick dry pure brilliant white from Deluxe. Now I've been recommended, because this is quite thick, to mix it down with a little bit of water, so 2/3 paint, 1/3 water. And I've just got a roller that I'm going to use to apply for the majority, and then some finer brushes for sort of the edges and the tighter areas. So let's start doing that then. Right then, so now the back doors have had their first coat. I've closed the van up, covered some thingies, and stuck the heating on. I can see now why people clad first. It is way, way easier to just clad and paint and then build around it. Lesson learned. Cool. Best get cracking then, I guess. Right, I've done the walls, first coat. I reckon I'm going to do the shelving next. I'll work my way down. Yeah. Start over here. Do all these shelves. Do these shelves, and then finish up with just the little furniture. I'll show you what I've done with the cupboards and all that in a minute. I'm gonna sort of do that when it's drying. Cool. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm not gonna paint the floor because I'm gonna auto carpet it. Makes sense because, you know, if you've got stuff in there, they might just, like devices and stuff, they'll just slide around without a bit of friction. And it saves me just one less thing to paint. That's always good, isn't it? Right. Here we go. Kind of looking white. Is it possible to be bad at painting? Because if so, I'm bad at painting. Looks a bit blotchy to me, but hopefully, obviously tomorrow, because it's getting late now, I'll sand everything down and do another coat, which should hopefully smoothen things out. For now though, I'm gonna paint the cupboard. Sorry, my battery ran out. Yeah, so now I'm going to prime all my cupboard doors and stuff. It's really annoying because it's so cold outside. It means I've got to bring them inside to dry. So I've got this little like conveyor belt of so I'll bring them out one by one, paint them, and then prop them up here to dry and just leave them here overnight, I guess. Fun times. There we go. Ended up having to do it in the dark, so looks a bit patchy, but gonna let that dry now, and then tomorrow we do it all again with the added task of caulking. So I'm just gonna do, before I put the next layer of paint on, I'm gonna sand everything, do a bit of caulking, and then do my second layer of paint, and that should be everything. So yes, see you then. Morning everyone. So woken up this morning and it's flipping snowing. In England, I know. Puts a bit of a further spanner in the works a little bit, because I need to have the back doors open briefly. It's meant to stop in a couple of hours. As long as it's not actively snowing, should be okay. Forgot to film, but just applied a little bit of cool to a few of the screw heads that I wanted to hide. I left the ones on the main cladding because, to be honest, I don't really mind about them. I think it gives a little bit of a beach hutty vibe. It's just sort of on that front panel. I kind of wanted to hide the screws as much as I can. I've decided in a drastic turn of events that I'm going to start by repainting the cupboards before I do in the van. Partly because it started snowing again, and partly because I don't want to get into a situation like yesterday where I was painting them in the dark, because at least in the van I've got lights, because painting them in the dark did not go down very well. So hopefully I can neaten them up with the second coat in the sunlight. Cool. There we go. Actually way better than I thought. So now I'm just gonna do the second layer in the van. Fun. Right, we're back in the van, heating's on. Already done the back doors, looking quite good. Just need to paint the rest of this then. What more is there to say? I'm just gonna crack on and do it, I think, because I'm freezing cold and it's still snowing. Right, done. Actually quite happy with that, to be honest. It's always a little bit of a scare when you put your base coat down and you're like, ooh. So yeah, I'm gonna pack up. I'm gonna hopefully varnish the ceilings and then these bits of pine in the week. Then I'll take all this tape off and see how it looks. See you then. Welcome back. It's another Baltic day. Below freezing. So everything's dried on the walls and stuff. Looks good. Today I'm going to be varnishing the roof and the other bits of pine. So I've taken off the bits that went around the fans. I've just sort of pulled out the lights just so I can sort of paint around here. And then I'm going to varnish these bits of pine on the back. Now I'm not sure why I didn't do this when I was painting as well, but I'm just going to, they're only screwed on, so I'm just going to take those off and paint them outside of the van. Then once they're dry, come and put it back in again. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go over, just sand everything. I've just got a very fine grain, I think 240. Just going to sand everything, wipe it down, and then just paint it with a, varnish it with a brush. Right, there we go, coat 1. So the heat is on. Whilst that's drying, I'm going to go and paint this bit, the front of the table and the bed frame, which I've already taken off, and it's inside, so I'll do that now. Right, it's dried. I'm just going to go over it again with the sander and then do another layer. I should have mentioned previously, I'm using some Ronseal quick dry varnish, antique pine, so I shouldn't stain it too much, but it should just bring out the natural colour, I guess, hopefully. So let's crack on with that. Second coat done. Whilst that's drying, I'm just going to go and do the second coat on the bed frame and the table front. Then once they're all dry, it'll just be a case of putting them back in, and then I'll do tiling. I apologise, this video probably hasn't been the most interesting so far, just watching someone paint walls and ceilings over and over again. But I've never done tiling before, so that should be interesting, I hope. See you then. Hello, welcome back. So whilst I was waiting for my tiles to arrive for my splashback, I've done a few other little bits and bobs. I've added some corner moulding to the windows here. Just give them a bit of a finish to make them look more straight. I don't know if you saw, but I put the handles on all the cupboards. I've also added some little magnetic things to keep them closed, and then I've auto carpeted the floors of each of them, just give them a bit more like friction when I'm driving around. If I've got anything in there, stop it from sliding around a bit more. So today I'm going to be hopefully putting a little splashback behind my sink. I've been waiting for these tiles to turn up. I've got these stone coloured. Ooh, I went for stone, kind of a grey colour, because I didn't want to match that too much, and I wanted to sort of go in between the white and the, you know, the green of the kitchen. Now these tiles are 5 centimetres by 25 centimetres, which is slightly smaller than your average sort of wall tile, which I think is around, what was it, 10 by 30. And I'm going to do 4 rows, about 4.5 long. So I ordered 20, just give me a couple spares. Now, to help me do this job, obviously, again, I'll link all of the bits I've bought in the description below. But I've also bought this handy little tiling kit from B&Q. It comes with a tile cutter and then a grout sponge, a grout finisher, pencil, spacers. Now I'm not going to be using the spacers in here because they're little cross ones. I've bought some T ones instead, and I'll show you why when we come to apply it. So the first thing we're going to do is just clean up the area and stuff and get everything prepped, and then we'll crack on. So typically with tiling, you'll cover the whole area that you're tiling with an adhesive and then stick the tiles to that adhesive. Now I'm going to be difficult and do it the other way around, partly because obviously because the van's going to be flexing about a bit, I've got a flexible adhesive. I've got a Sikaflex 522, which is weather resistant, and it's made for caravans, so it's made to deal with vibrations and banging around and stuff. So instead what I'm going to do, I mean ideally as well you want a really flat surface. Mine's virtually flat, but because I've got this paint on there, I'm going to score that. I've marked up to where the tiles are going to go, and it just goes up to this line. So I'm going to score the surface with just a sharp Stanley knife, just to make sure that it gives it a bit more to adhere to. Is that the word? To stick to. And then I'm going to apply this Sikaflex to each individual tile and then stick them in place, and then obviously space them out with the spacers, but I'll show you as I'm doing that. So yeah, I'm just going to score the surface first and then we'll get going. Right, so scored up. Next, I'm just going to cut 2 of these tiles in half. So I've got my 2, so obviously I said I'm doing 4 rows of 4.5, so I just need 4 halves. Good maths that, innit? Let me show you how this works. So if you haven't cut a tile before, like I hadn't until about 5 minutes ago. So I take my tile, I've marked it already where the halfway point is. I line it up to the central line. Might want to get this side actually, mightn't you? So you can see. So you score the face of it, check it's on the line. And then hold it in place and just press down. Boom. Now lastly, before we get sticking, I just want to show why I'm using these T spacers rather than the cross ones, because I'm doing a little overlap like that, so the crosses would not work, unless of course you used them that way and stuck them in like that. But this just seems a little bit easier. So obviously once the tiles are dry, you wait till they're dry, then you take the spacers out before you grout. Let's get sticking, I reckon. Right then, choose my applicator gun. I'm going to go around the rim. And then do a little zigzag across the middle. Might be overkill, but... And then... And this... Push them into place. Like so. And repeat 20 times. One row complete. Okay, so obviously this side I'll start with the half and keep going up. There we go. Lovely. So you can see it's important to leave a gap at the bottom wherever you use the spacers, because you don't want tiles going directly onto this work surface. What I'm going to do is let that dry. Now what most people do is put an edge strip on the exposed edges, but I'm actually going to leave them as they are and instead just put a thin bead of caulk just to seal it off, but because I quite like the exposed tile. So yes, I'll wait for that to dry. It says on the bottle, it says 30 minutes, but I don't believe that. So I'm going to leave it a little bit longer and then we'll get caulking hopefully at the end of the day. See you then. Right, so the tiles are dried. I've taken out all of the spacers and I'm just whipping up a batch of grout. So I'll see you in a sec. There we go, look. So I read online that the consistency should be like smooth peanut butter. Now I'm a smooth eater, so I know exactly what that's like. So yeah, I'm just going to basically apply that to all of the gaps here. It doesn't matter if you get it on the tiles, because what we'll do is we'll just use the sponge just to wipe it off afterwards. But you just want to make sure you get it in all the cracks. Trying to avoid this bottom one, because I said what I'm going to do is, oh God, I'm really struggling with words. I'm going to caulk put a bead of caulk down on the bottom there. So I'm going to avoid actually that bottom bit. But other than that, we're covering it. Right then. So before I wash off the excess with just a sponge, I'm going to use this little finishing tool. Basically like what you do with a finger. I'm just going to run this down these joints you see here, and it makes a bit of a smoother line. So you can see that's left a bit of a finer groove, and then just before it dries I'm just going to go over with a damp, not soaking sponge, just clean off all the tiles. Boom, there we go, look. Looks quite nice, doesn't it? I'm going to let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow all I'm going to do is just add a bead of caulk down the bottom there just to seal that, and I'll probably do a thin layer around the edge. All 4 edges in fact. So I'll see you then. Morning all. Look at that. pretty happy with that, to be honest, for my first ever go at tiling. There we go, look. Nice. So I'm just going to let that dry again and then probably give it another little wash down and clean it up. But that's it, done. So yeah, I hope you found that remotely helpful in some way. So like the large amount of the van is pretty much done. I've just got loads of little things to do, like curtains. I'll probably do a little shelf in the garage area, mount a little TV, stuff like that. So the next video will probably be one of the last ones of the build anyway, that I'll just run through all the little finishes and stuff that I've done. So I'll see you there. Take it easy.